Hey guys, it's Chameleonaire, and I'm a man that has no issue at admitting if I made a mistake or bad call in judgment. About a month ago, I dropped a video about Combat Pack 2 characters being revealed, and in that trailer, we see Conan the Barbarian, because I know I've been saying his name wrong, the T-1000, who I'm very hyped for, and Ghostface, Noob Saibot, Cyrax, and Sector. In my video, I mentioned that Ghostface being in Mortal Kombat didn't realistically make sense because of him being a regular human in a Halloween costume, and you have to admit that I was onto something with that idea. A lot of you said the possibilities of who's under the mask could be endless. Another Mortal Kombat character could be donning the mask. Some other superhuman could be Ghostface, but case in point, y'all just agree with what I said. My mind wasn't changed until we got the official trailer for Chaos Reigns, which case in point showcases what we've been seeing and getting teased about for months. New story mode, new characters centered around Titan Havoc, the revival of Animalities, and of course the new DLC characters. And this is where I have to admit that I was wrong. At the end of this jam-packed trailer, we got teased about a fatality performed by none other than Ghostface, which I have to admit is one of the coolest fatalities I've seen in this game. We start off with Ghostface walking up on Sub-Zero and stabs him in his stomach and rips it open. Sub-Zero is scared and tries to run away like he's in Scream, but runs into another Ghostface. Now this is where my jaw dropped, because it's just like in the first Scream when we see two Ghostfaces and it's like, what the hell, there was two of them? But it brought that same reference in Mortal Kombat, which was great. So the possibilities of Ghostface summoning another Ghostface to fight could happen, and I would love to see that. But back to the fatality. This plays out like a cliche horror movie scene where the victim is helpless and just stares at the killer, and then Sub-Zero gets brutally stabbed by two Ghostfaces, one in the back and one in the face. Alright, first person that we're gonna get into is Scorpion. I need to see if he turns into a scorpion, so let's get it. Alright, we have Scorpion here, who turns into a gigantic scorpion. He just looks terrifying, stabs his victim numerous times and slices him in half. Now, this fatality is freaking phenomenal. I have to say, part of me wishes that they copied his fatality from Mortal Kombat 4, you know, when he grabs them by their feet and just stabs them and then just rips their body. But this is really, really good too. I don't really be nitpicky about it, because listen, you gotta understand, Mortal Kombat's my life. I love these Animalities. I'm so happy to see them back. But I'm gonna give Scorpion's Animality a A tier. Next, we're gonna see Li Mei's Animality, and she turns into a cute little panda. And this panda rips off the arm of Scorpion, and cutely sits on their head, squashes them, and goes ham on the victim's arm. Now, this fatality is cute and cuddly. It's nice. I mean, it's cool. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. Li Mei turning into a panda, I don't hate the idea of it, but I don't think that it's like, you know, Scorpion. So I'm gonna give Li Mei's a B tier. It's not bad. It's good. I enjoy it. It's cute, you know, the panda sitting on the head and all of that. Next, we're gonna get into Reptile. Now, Reptile, you would think would turn into a giant reptile, but no, he turns into a gigantic Venus flytrap. Looks freaking amazing, and the tongue literally looks like something from out of Jumanji. Now, I want to give Reptile's Animality A tier. Now, part of me did wish that he turned into like a freaking dinosaur or something like that, being that he is a reptile, but he turns into a reptile throughout the whole fight, so him turning into a Venus flytrap is definitely cool and up his alley of craziness. Now, next we're going to get into Kenshi, and this is something that I predicted in the first video. We see a wolf and a spear wolf, and as I predicted, that is Kenshi's. He summons this other wolf, which is Sento, and they are going ham on Reptile here, and we are gonna get a rip. Yep, rip, and they're gonna howl as a pack, because wolves travel in packs. Very cool Animality. Now, this definitely is cool, and I love the inclusion of Sento, so I'm gonna give Kenshi's a A tier. Next, we're gonna get into Sub-Zero. Now, he turns into a gigantic mammoth with ice tusks. Impales his opponent, uses his trunk to rip him in half. Very gruesome, very cool. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I am a little bit disappointed with Sub-Zero's animality. Part of me wanted him to turn into a polar bear like he did in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. At least unmasked Sub-Zero turned into a polar bear. You know, I guess it was a cool detail, kind of giving him ice tusks, you know, kind of reminding me of the mammoth from Ice Age. But this is Sub-Zero we're talking about here, so I'm gonna give his fatality a B tier. I'm sorry, you may hate me for saying that. I know I say a lot of controversial things, or I know I say a lot of things that may be wrong to you, but me personally, I just think that Sub-Zero should have been a polar bear or a penguin or some sort of ice animal that lives in ice or is involved in ice. Next, we're gonna get into Ninra himself, and he turns into a gorilla. Very cool. Now he digs into the person's mouth and rips him in half, kind of showing the strength of gorillas. This is a very cool, gruesome fatality, but do I think it should have been given to Smoke? I can't really think of any other animal he could have turned into. I don't hate Smoke turning into a gorilla. It's really cool. I love what the animality, I love what the gorilla does with the victim. I feel like it's in the same playing field as Li Mei. Could have been, you know, a little bit better. But I'm gonna give Smoke's animality a B tier. Next, we're gonna get into Rain, and this is something that I predicted in the trailer. Yep, he goes inside the victim's mouth. Reiko is struggling, gargling up blood, and boom, he explodes inside of the victim. Rain has a very cool character-linked animality, and I believe that this is very fitting for him. It's okay. I mean, actually not. No, I'm not. I don't hate it. I'll give it I'm gonna give it a B tier. I think it could have been better, but we're gonna move on to the next character. Next, we're gonna see Reiko. Now, we saw this teased with General Shao's, and he turns into a ram. And this is, wow. This goes to show never to mess with a ram. All they do is headbutt each other. Now, this is a very cool fatality, very gruesome, really shows how menacing them horns can be. I'm gonna give Reiko's animality a tier. Now, next we're gonna get into Raiden. Now, this is freaking amazing. If you don't know, this was Raiden's animality in Mortal Kombat Trilogy, turning into an electric eel, but since we're in a new day and age of high definition video games, they were able to add some detail to it. We get an up close shot view of this eel who looks freaking terrifying. I don't know if you've ever seen an electric eel's face, but they did a very good job replicating that in the game. Head explodes, very gruesome, very scary looking, and I love classic fatalities. So we're gonna give Raiden's animality S tier, the very first S tier in my list. All right, next we're gonna move on to Fire God Liu Kang. Now, you would expect for him to turn into a dragon like we've seen in other Mortal Kombat games, but no. Him turning into a phoenix flying bird is very fitting for his role in the game, and it just looks beautiful, especially when the ashes come up and he comes up out of the ashes, just looking freaking beautiful and very majestic. Just a beautiful looking animality. So I'm gonna give Liu Kang also an S tier. Just a really cool fatality, and it's a really nice way to switch things up with him being Fire God Liu Kang. All right, next we're gonna move on to Baraka. Now this one is freaking crazy. He turns into a terrifying hedgehog. Now, I've never seen a hedgehog look like this, but this is freaking terrifying. It's scary, it's cool, and very great way of having those spikes be used as a weapon. You would think Sonic the Hedgehog could do this, but nope, Baraka can. So I'm gonna give Baraka's animality an S tier as well. Just a really cool, scary animality. Next, we're gonna get into Geras, who is really the Titan in Mortal Kombat. Turns into a gigantic hippo, and if you don't know, hippos have a very strong bite force, so this is freaking gruesome, and I love just the head coming out. Kind of reminds me of the video we seen online of the watermelon, of them putting the watermelon in the hippo's mouth and him crushing it down. Now I'm gonna give Geras' animality an A tier. Very cool, great, accurate representation of the hippo's bite force, and you know, Geras, you know, it's a cool fatality, and they gave Geras his eyes as well. We're gonna get into the Viltrumite warrior Omni-Man. Now this is freaking amazing. If you've never seen Invincible, he turns into this monster that he fights around the end of season 1, and they called this monster Hail Mary. Now this monster could have defeated Omni-Man if Invincible hadn't interfered. This was the Hail Mary that was supposed to defeat Omni-Man once they figured out that he killed the Guardians, and this is a great way of including other characters from other universes. This is freaking cool. it's actually scary to see him in this game to show how powerful he is. So I'm going to give Omni-Man's animality an S tier. Next, we're going to move on to Peacemaker. Now, this is the coolest animality in the game. This is just beautiful. See Baldy and Peacemaker as an eagle teaming up together to kill Omni-Man. Now, Peacemaker is going to use what he knows, which is guns, and Eagling using what he knows to get weapons for Peacemaker, gets a grenade, blows him up, and we see this amazing Peacemaker shot of him as an eagle, really showing his love, being a patriot for the country. And honestly, this animality is one of my favorites. I just love the fact that Eagling sees Peacemaker as his equal, even as an eagle. It's just so it's a beautiful fatality. It's a beautiful animality in my opinion. So I'm gonna give Peacemaker S tier, but he's gonna be at the front of the list. He's gonna be at the front. He deserves that. I think he has a great animality. I love the use of Eagling teaming up with him. All right, next we're gonna get into Natara, and as expected, turns into a gigantic bat. I would have been disappointed if she didn't. Ooh, my goodness, this bat looks freaking terrifying. Really just goes to show how gruesome these animals are. Natara turning into a gigantic bat, bites down on the victim. I think this is a great animality, especially fitting for her. Did their research on it. I'm gonna give it an A tier though. You know, could have definitely been. I think it's great. I'm not gonna complain much about it. Next, we're gonna get into the big bad of the Chaos Reign story, which is Havoc. He turns into a hyena, very, very gruesome, very vicious animal. If you know anything about the hyenas, they definitely are savage like this, and it very fits Havoc's role and just character in Mortal Kombat. Him turning into the hyena and just ripping the insides of the victim, I think it's very fitting for him. I'm gonna give his animality an A tier. All right, next we're gonna get into the Sorcerer Quan Chi, and as I predicted, he turns into the bona fide T-Rex. Now, I'm sure he's a fan of Jurassic Park, and just to see him swallow the person and just completely failed in every way, very cool fatality. I love just the detail of just the bone T-Rex. Really goes to show, you know, the connection that some of these animals have to these characters, and for him to be completely bone T-Rex, I'm gonna give his animality an S tier, just for the simple detail and just him being bona fide T-Rex. Next, we're gonna get into the superhero Homelander. He turns into a super V'd up eagle. He retains his abilities as an eagle. If you look at how he looks, he is literally a V'd up eagle. His feet look like the feet of big cats. Very scary looking, very terrifying, very intimidating animal. We're gonna give his animality an A tier though. Next, we're gonna get into New Cybot. His shadow also turns into this animal, which is an alligator, and they recreate his fatality from Mortal Kombat 9 if you didn't know, which is very gruesome, very cool, and I love the use of the shadow and just the fact that they recreated his Mortal Kombat 9 fatality, which is great. I think that this fatality is freaking cool. In that game, really good. In this game, we're gonna give it an A tier. All right, next we're gonna get into Cyrax, and she turns into a gigantic yellow jacket wasp. Now, this is freaking terrifying. This is up Devorah's alley. I'm sure she would love this thing. Wasp has venom, shoots it up out the person's eyes, explodes. Get an up close shot of this wasp, very scary looking animal. And it's a giant wasp too. Very fitting for Cyrax, you know, yellow jacket, yellow ninja, very cool. I'm gonna give it an A tier though. All right, next we're gonna get into Ermac. He turns into a swarm of locusts. This looks like something straight out of The Mist, this looks like something out of a scary movie. You know, just how they eat up the face and they completely bona fide this person. They land on the camera. These locusts look scary looking, very horrific animality. I'm gonna give it an A tier. Next, we're gonna get into Katana. This was teased online. She turns into a gigantic hummingbird, stabs the victim multiple times, and we see that they're doing a specific pattern. Now, this is really cool. Stabs him in the head, falls to the ground, open up, creates a blood falcon, and drinks out of it. Now, this is what I mean by creativity and animalities. I love this animality. I fell in love with it when I saw it. There's a reason why they teased Kitana's animality first. Now, I'm going to put her animality at S tier, right behind Quan Chi. All right, we're going to get into Melina. Now, we saw this at the end of the trailer. Now, if you remember what I said, that this is very fitting for Melina because the praying mantis, which is what she is, eats the head of the victim, just goes to ham on this person, tears them in half, very vicious insect, and that's what Melina does. Now, I think that this is great, very fitting for her. I'm going to give Melina's animality a tier. All right, next we're going to get into Tanya. She turns into a gigantic giraffe. Very random animal, but this is also nothing to play with. Uses his height to smash the victim into pieces and really tears them into pieces. I like the animality. It's very cool, but it's all right. It ain't crazy looking. I'm going to give it a B tier though. All right, next we're going to get into Sector. Now, Sector turns into a rhino. If you know anything about the rhino, they are terrifying animals. Even predators don't mess with a herd of rhino. Uses its horns to drag the victim into pieces, really ramming them. A horde of rhinos is scary, but just this one rhino by itself was able to kill. And yeah, very, very scary animal, and I'm going to give it a A tier. All right, next we're going to get into Takeda. Okay. Now, Takeda's animality is really interesting. We had a stage fatality on that stage with the water, and in a way, this represents that fatality. We really see what was under the water, and it was this thing. The way the octopus just brings the way the tentacles grab the victim and bring them underwater and tears them in half, eats them up. Now, this is a good representation and behind the scenes of MKX's stage fatality, and I really love the use of that and callback to that game. We're going to give Takeda's animality a tier. All right, next we're going to move on to the other sorcerer, which is Shang Tsung. Now, he has another classic fatality. He is the only character that's allowed to turn into a snake. This is terrifying. I love how the snake kills the victim, really shows how scary snakes are. Doesn't just eat them whole like in the past. Rips their head off. You can see the discoloration of the head from the body, rips off the head, and then we see an up-close personal shot of this freaking snake, and this snake looks freaking scary as hell. And just for this cool ass animality, we're gonna put it in S tier. All right, next we're gonna move on to General Shao. We see him transform into a bear. I want to say it's a grizzly bear or the brown bear, which it's definitely a brown bear. Very, very vicious, very brutal. I think this animality is very fitting for him. He is an alpha male. Give him an alpha animal, which is the bear. Very gruesome fatality. So we're gonna put it in A tier. All right, next we're gonna move on to Sindel, which I think is the most terrifying animality in the entire game. She transforms into a gigantic freaking spider. Freaking bites the head off, tears the torso. We see little baby spiders. Oh my God. And then we see this damn spider up close and personal, which gave me a little baby jump scare. Now, with this animality being scary, gruesome, and gross, we're gonna put this animality at S tier. We're gonna put it at S tier. Sindel's animality is just terrifying. I think she has the most, to me, the most scariest animality in the entire game. Next, we're gonna move on to Johnny Cage, which I think is a really freaking cool ass fatality. We see it's a movie set, and we see him put on a shark helmet. We transition into a pool, which looks like a scene from Jaws, which is very evident. Even recreates the movie cover of Jaws, and this shark goes ham, which is Johnny Cage cosplaying as a shark. And I think this animality is extremely cool, very creative, really shows really how this shark is connected to Johnny Cage as a movie. And not to mention, he kind of plays Indiana Jones in the story. Now he's playing as Jaws. We even have Jean-Claude Van Damme in the game. A whole bunch of movie references. So with that, we're gonna put Johnny Cage's animality at S tier. All right, next we're moving on to the great Kung Lao. Transforms into a freaking tiger. Really goes to show how vicious these big cats are. Tears out the freaking spine. Just gives a freaking loud roar. Really looks like something from a scary movie. So I'm gonna give Kung Lao's animality an A tier. Last but certainly not the least, we're gonna move on to Ashura. Now Ashura turns into a freaking unicorn. Very terrifying unicorn. Never thought I would ever say that, but this unicorn spews rainbow fire, which is beautiful and cool at the same time. Very majestic. Really goes to show that even though this demon is from the Netherrealm, demon turns into a beautiful animal and is purified, which is very fitting for Ashra. I'm going to give Ashra's animality an S tier. Alright, that concludes my list. I know that the list may be a bad one, being that I have, Li Mei, Sub-Zero, Smoke, Rain, and Tanya at B tier, but none of the animalities were bad. There was no bad animality in this game, in my honest opinion. There was just some that were cool, creative, fun-looking, scary-looking, gruesome, and some that were, could have, been a little bit better, but I'm not going to truly complain. I'm looking forward to seeing the animalities for Ghostface, Conan the Barbarian, sorry, and the T-1000. Makes me wonder what those guys will turn into. I enjoyed rating them. I might play the story if you're interested. Thanks for watching. I'm Chameleonaire. I'm gonna see you next time.